Topical issues. I'm going to talk about gangs. Uh, there are different types of gangs. Uh, there are gangs that are involved in group activities that are not evil, and there are gangs that are involved in criminal activities. A gang is a group of people who have got a common interest. So sometimes they assemble together. In most cases, they interact for certain purposes. In estates, in places, in towns, in colleges, in schools, there are some groups that are formed for a common unity, a common good purpose. Some still call themselves gangs, but there are some groups that are formed with evil intentions. In villages, we have groups. In estates, we have groups, and some groups form their boundaries. But there are criminal gangs also. So gangs are formed because of common interests, and some gangs are formed because of common sufferings. So there are gangs that operate within estates, and there are criminal gangs that operate within estates. Then there are criminal gangs that operate within prisons, and there are some criminal gangs that operate using motorcycles and sometimes vehicles. The common thing about both gangs, criminal and non-criminal, they have ways of identifying themselves. Mostly they identify themselves through graffiti. You find drawings on walls or surrounding areas having a certain meaning, identity, or marking an area. Sometimes they use hand signs when they are greeting one another, when they are walking, when they are waving at one another, or when they want to signal to one another certain things. Some identities of criminal gangs are the jewelry they wear. You'll find some with necklaces and crosses and whatever. Earrings on the nose, in the ears, on the lips, as way of identity. Others still put on watches and bangles, and others put on very expensive, very colorful, others just common jewelry. There are those who identify one another through tattoos. Put tattoos all over, and when you see certain kind of tattoos, you know they belong to that group or that group. Others identify themselves with clothings, and the colors of those clothing signify certain things to them. There are others who, out of not being identified, take on clothes, emblems, signs that relate to certain sports groups, certain mostly famous association groups. They are able to identify with them, and it's difficult for, if they are criminal gangs, it becomes difficult for people outside to know whether they are criminal or not. But there can also be good gangs that will still identify themselves with those things. Gangs have been known to do, the criminal gangs have been known to commit a lot of crimes. There are places you have heard of high-speed vehicle shootings or high-speed motorcycle shootings. Motorcycle robbery gangs, they rob motorcycles, chase and rob motorcycles from people who do not belong to the gang, or from foreigners within the area, or from people operating motorcycles in areas that they don't know. And then there are motorcycle robbery gangs that ride on motorcycles and rob property. You may be using a phone, somebody comes riding very fast, passes with a phone. There are motorcycle gangs that threaten people with weapons. Suddenly comes, stops the motorbike next to you, threaten you with weapons, take away the things that you have. And then we have, I talked of high-speed vehicles. There are also gangs that use vehicles to stop other vehicles in places that are isolated and rob people of things, such like things. Then in prisons also, when people have been imprisoned, gangs are formed in prisons. They start from those that exchange through secret means of getting things from outside and selling things within the prison amongst themselves. Some graduate from that to smuggling telephones for criminal activities, money laundering and all those things within the prisons. Others have violent gangs that revenge on members within the prisons. You can even find deaths, fights and things like that. And some in places where things are not that much taken care of, may end up even threatening some of the authorities within the prison itself. Like there are some who find they wield much power. They are imprisoned and they wield much power. In that, when their time, if they are released from prison, they find a way of committing a crime to get back into the prison, because they find recognition in the prison. They find they have power when they are within the prison walls, and they feel very insecure being outside. But there are some criminals who like being in prison because they are able to, through stolen electronic items and through other media of communication, like when people are being released, they send secret messages to those people who will be released, or others, if they find criminal officer, not criminal, what we like call them, I'll call them officers who are rogue, then they may be able to give out some commands, and these people now operate as warlords within the prison cells. So in case a crime is happening outside, they'll not be touched, they are in prison. But they command a lot of authority out there. And now we have street gangs. They're gangs that mark streets for different purposes. For robbery, for threatening people. Some even mark those places for collection of taxes in various forms, various activities, criminal activities. These gangs are found all over the world. It's not only in one country. I think there's no country without gangs, criminal gangs, good gangs. The criminal gangs are found all over. Every country has its criminal gangs. Almost every major city has its criminal gangs. These gangs, in most cases, start from people who have had common interests, like in suffering. There are people who are born in disadvantaged places. They realize that they have to tap into the community through criminal ways. There are others who find that the society, they feel the society has been too unfair to them, so they commit crimes as a way of getting back to the crimes, to the society, a way of revenge. And there are others that now allow themselves to be hired gangs. I was looking at videos and I saw some people in different countries, those who found it, now they have started gangs and criminal gangs, and they find that crime sometimes earns them a lot of money. So others are taken as hitmen, others are used as people to threaten and get debts from people and such like things. And others, I saw mafia gangs in the States, in Europe and other places, involved in gambling, loan sharking, drug trafficking, prostitution, fraud, counterfeiting, and many other things. So you find gangs get involved in those things. There are others that compromise the authorities within their jurisdictions. There are others that are just too secretive. But when you go to those towns, when you go to those places, they know those gangs exist. It's not secret that they are not known. They are known to exist, but sometimes even the way of countering them with the state authorities becomes difficult. But there are others that are able to compromise their way so that if they find rogue officers, they can be able to operate within an area without interference. Many of these criminal gangs engage in warlike activities or war activities. And they do this for what they call the 3 R's. 3 R's of gangs. One, they want to cause such a terror that people fear them. They call it respect. So that when that gang is mentioned, everybody is left in shivers. 2, they do it for retaliation. Maybe a certain gang has done this or certain people have done this, so these gangs work, commit crimes, different kinds of crimes, as a way of retaliation. And There are others who do that to guide and keep together their relationship. So they are busy fighting with other groups to keep a relationship, a unity within themselves, amongst themselves, so that anybody who sees them sees that those ones belong to that. So there are always fights, a unifying sort of thing to them. Out of these criminal gangs came certain characteristics. I know when I started talking about these things, and I put gangster music, people are wondering, this is a person who is telling us of good things and is putting gangster music. What many did not identify with is that there are gangster groups that put gangster music as an identity and as a way of encouraging crime amongst themselves. Two, there are gangster music groups that put gangster music that is not war against the people, war against the society, but war against something that they feel is making them aggrieved, angered. So it may be illness in the society, evil in society, unfairness in society. So you find that music having those vibes, that power, as if they are fighting war, but in actual sense, they are trying to make sure that if there are legal ways, they work as a group to defy those evil that are in the society. And there are others who just put that kind of music for pure entertainment. It talks roughly, it cheers and jeers other groups, because that's what it does. It cheers and jeers. So if they don't like your group or whatever they are doing, they pass with their music, they play their music to show you are nothing, but they don't engage in the war. Or sometimes when they are happy, something to put them up, feel good. So when we talk of gangs, it does not always mean evil. That's what we have to know. There are some groups that form some gangs for association and even sometimes to help one another into doing good things, constructive things in their very life, constructive things in the society. We have to note that. So we should not look at them, put them all in the same ship, that anything called a gang is criminal. And there are those who form those gangs for evil purposes. So when we are in a society, if we find associations, we have to know what kind of association are they. Because there are others that may be beneficial to them, to the society. And there are others that are a disaster to the society. So we have to learn to isolate the good gangs and the bad gangs. We have to know that gangster music is not evil. It is the activities that evil people do, some in the guise of that music, that leads to that. And that's why I started with gangster music. I think some of the gangster music you have heard have really uplifted you. Some never knew that there are such a strong lyrics, such a strong messages in this, but they use rough languages because many of them came from the rough environment. And there are some words that we may think sound obscene, but to some communities or some societies, due to the roughness in life, Those are the common words they use. So to those of us who are brought to be holy, 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 there are words you may hear, and they make you feel that this is dirty, but to them it may just have that significance of expressing their anger. So I've talked of gangs, I've talked of gangster music. Do not always look negatively at any gang around. Get to find out what is happening before we conclude, because mostly we conclude when people hear gang, evil comes to their mind. It's not always so. That is what I wanted to pass across about gangs. That's my take for it.